Hi everybody and welcome back to My Mini Homestead, and today we're in the kitchen and I am going to show you how you can make a quick and easy vegetarian yellow curry. So let's get started with all those veggies. So what you start with is any vegetables that you have in the house. I've got broccoli, carrots, asparagus, and onion. I got some potatoes and I have mushrooms. Now everything in here will be stir-fried except for the potatoes. I will peel them, dice them, throw them in a pot and cook them. Then what you need, there's really not a lot of ingredients. Then what you need is this. Let me roll this down. I used to be able, when I lived in the Fraser Valley, there was a Korean store there that I was able to go to and get this. The last time I went, I couldn't get this. They had a different kind, just not as good. It has, for me, it had too much lemongrass in it. And this is how it comes. It just comes in a bag like this, and it's just sort of rolled up in here. And what I do is I cut off a piece about that big, and I'll show you that because I have one. Now you can get this off of Amazon. This is where I got it. I was so worried I wasn't going to be able to get it. I have it. So here's mine that I have in the fridge, and it's been in the fridge for a long time. I use it so you can tell it's been well used. We love a good yellow curry. So all I do is I push everything to the end and then squeeze it out. And I'll show you that as we're making it. But that is this beautiful, gorgeous yellow curry. It tastes amazing. So next what you need is some coconut milk. And get that out of the way. I like these ones because if you don't need it all, you can just screw the cap back on and use it for something else. And you can leave it right there, and that's all your ingredients, or you can add some tofu to it. And I like the medium firm. So let's get started and start getting this food going. The first thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna cut up my tofu, and I just take a sharp knife and cut it around the edge, but I do this over the sink because all that water that's in there that it's soaking in will come out. So I'm just gonna go and do that, and I'll bring it back. So there's my tofu. And then I'm just gonna cut it into chunks, and I usually cut it like 3. So, it's a decent size. And then I'm gonna go through it again. Whoops, hit the camera. And then I'm just gonna cut it into chunks. So it just depends on what you wanna do. If you have a large group that you're cooking for, you may wanna do 2 packages of this. And there is no specific, this is how much you use and this has how much you use. It's based on what you need and it's based on flavor. So I'm gonna pour this into this bowl and I'll show you my next step. So I'm just taking a knife and I'm just pushing all this curry goodness down to the end so that I can squeeze it out. And then what I do is, you can see my hole there, it's about a 1-inch cut that I have there, and I squeeze out about 4 inches of, I think I did about 5. And again, it is up to you on how much curry that you want to use. I'm just gonna grab a fork, and I'm gonna give my milk a good shake, just to get everything in there, and open that up, and I pour just a bit in there because you want to get this all mushed up. You don't want to have chunks of this curry paste because then when you're eating it, you'll hit a chunk and it's not so tasty. Ask me how I know. So I'm just keep mixing that in, and you can see all the chunks are starting to disappear. You can add a bit more milk, coconut milk that is, and mix that up in there. Yum. Now, one thing I do sometimes, if I want it a bit yellower, I will add some turmeric to it once I have it in the pot. Because once you get all the vegetables and everything, it kind of disappears. I need a spatula. I'm just gonna add a little bit more milk to that. Well, quite a bit. So that I have I guess a 1.5 cups of it. And now what I'm gonna do, be careful. This stuff will stain your clothes and other things as well. I'm gonna go back to my tofu and I am gonna pour it all on top of the tofu. And so like this is the first thing I do. You could even do this like ahead of time and then stick it in the fridge and let it marinate for a while, and then just give it a bit of a toss so that it all has some of that curry goodness on it. And we are just gonna set that aside and let it soak in that flavor. So when I'm doing this, I do like to start off with my potato, or potatoes. I've only got 2 this time, and that's just because it's all I got in the cupboard. And yeah, and make sure you keep them in a dark storage so you don't get that green, because it's not good when they start going green. Yeah, so I start these first because I find it takes it a little bit longer for them to boil and to get to the right texture to go in the stir fry. And then I throw, it's like the last thing I throw in there. So I'm gonna get that one done. And you can cut it in however big a chunks you want. And yeah, into a pot of water. So I'm just gonna get this done and into a pot and get to our vegetables. I almost forgot a very important part of making yellow curry, and that is rice. So I am going to cook up 2 cups of rice. And when I learned how to cook rice, I was taught, you know, for 1 cup of rice, add 2 cups of water. I no longer do that. If you don't use quite as much, getting down to the nitty-gritty of this rice. Okay, we're gonna cook it all. We don't have much left. And then I'm gonna rinse this. But anyhow, as I was saying, for a cup of rice, I used to put in 2 cups of water. And so now I put in about 1 3/4 cups, maybe just a bit more than that. And I find I get a fluffier, drier rice, and it doesn't get gummy and gooey. So I'm just gonna wash this, get it into pot, add some salt, and get it going. So now it is time to prep all of my vegetables, and I do not need all of this. I'm basically gonna make for 4 people because I like leftovers, and we'll have it for another meal. So you just guesstimate at how much you think you need for vegetables, and I think I need a bit more, so I'm gonna cut those ones. And that's what we're gonna use for the broccoli. And just gonna give it a quick wash. So I've got my pieces of broccoli, and I'm just gonna cut them up sort of into bite-sized pieces. I like bigger pieces. My mother likes smaller pieces, so I tend to do smaller for her. And get it all chunked up. And then for the ends, when you got the bigger pieces, I just sort of pick a spot and pop it apart. So I'm gonna finish up the broccoli and get it in there. So we love asparagus, and I've got some growing in the garden, and I'm hoping that for this year I get to pick some, we'll see. Now, there are 2 different ways you can do your asparagus. This last part is gonna be woody. So if you gently fold it, it will snap where you have good asparagus, and this will be more woody. Sometimes you can peel it with a potato peeler and get some extra. So I'm just gonna go up it, gently peeling, and there's that snap. Or you can take a knife and just go up it too, and you will find that soft spot, and then you just cut it. So there's a couple ways that you can do asparagus. Nobody wants to be eating that woody part. So and then what I'm just gonna do, so I'm just gonna cut it into pieces, and it will go in with broccoli. So I'm just gonna finish this up, and we'll get on to our next one. Now, normally I would throw in some cauliflower, but I don't know about where you live, but where I live, it's like $6 a head. So until I can grow it in my garden, I'm not paying those kind of prices. Oh, and I have to say, the asparagus in town was like $9.99 a pound. But then we were in at one grocery store and it was on for $2.99. So I grabbed it. I mean, that was a great price, and I was really happy about that. So, all right, so I'm just gonna peel these up, slice them, and get them in with the mix. I forgot I would tell you, like this one here is pretty big. So what I just do is this part of it, I will cut it in half so that, you know, it's not so big as it goes in. And I cut it about just over 1/4 inch thick, I think it is. I mean, you're never gonna get it exactly right. All right, and in it goes to the bowl. I mean, just look at those colors. Isn't that gorgeous? Now I also like to throw mushrooms in, and I've already cut the bottom off of it. I also like snow peas are really good in this, and when I do snow peas, I don't usually throw them in right at the beginning because I find they cook pretty quickly. So I leave them in probably about halfway through and then throw them in. Kohlrabi is great. I mean, basically peas, frozen peas. You can just take some frozen peas and throw them in. Green beans are excellent. So basically, whatever vegetables you got will work in, whatever works in a stir fry, and also sort of whatever works in a stew or a soup will work in this yellow curry as well. So I've got one more mushroom to cut up, and then I think I've got the onions, and we'll be done. So just a tip when it comes to onions. Ours are downstairs in cold storage, so I don't need to really worry about it. But so that you don't have the tears, if you stick your onions or your onion in the fridge for a few hours, just the cold sort of stops the juices from coming out of it, and then you don't cry. So that's what I usually do, is cold storage or a fridge. I mean, there's times you'll forget. Another tip is if you have onions, like a big bag of onions in your cold storage and they're starting to go, saute them. Saute them in butter, put them in a Ziploc, throw them in the freezer, and then you have them handy for soups or even scrambled eggs, whatever you need it for. All right, I'm gonna get to the stove. So I have this great big frying pan that I just love for my cooking my stir fries in, and I've got my potatoes are boiling, there's salt in there. Here's my rice, and I'm gonna get some salt in there as well. Get the lid on it, bring it up to a boil, and then I will put it on simmer. And I watch it from like 10 minutes to 15 minutes to just get that perfect fork sort of rice, and we'll see that in a bit. I still don't have my veggies in, whoops, because of not getting my rice in. And my potatoes are starting to get a little bit soft. So I am gonna turn them off and just leave them sit in the water. And that way they should be ready by the time I am ready to add them to the stir fry. So I just wanted to let you know, these all come with a best before date, and I have never worried about it. I know when I open it up, and sometimes I open it up by the time its best by date is gone. Never have had problems. Whoops, the rice is coming over. You don't want to do that. So I've got it turned down, and what you can do too when it's puffing up like this, I just blow on it and it will take all of that down. I'm gonna have a mess to clean up because I wasn't on top of it, but I've got it down on a low heat now, and I will set a timer for 10 minutes and then follow up with that. Like I said, I don't really worry about the best by date. They have to put it onto everything. It doesn't mean it's going to be bad by that date. And at this point, it is sealed in a plastic bag. It goes in the fridge, so don't be worried about that. All right, back to the stove. So I've got my heat on high right now. I just want to get my frying pan good and hot. I'm just going to put a little bit of olive oil in here and let that sit for just a bit till it gets hot. So my frying pan is warming up. Just gonna spread that oil around, and I'm gonna dip down all my veggies. Doesn't that look so good? It is so colorful. Oh, I think that one needs to be cut. It's a little bit on the bigger side. And sometimes you realize that once it goes into the frying pan. Now, I keep an eye on this, like I have it on a higher heat right now because I really want it to get cooking, and you're just going to cook it till it gets to that spot where it's nice and tender. Now, okay, the rice has calmed down. What I am going to do is put a bit of water in here. I'm going to salt it. Let's do that first. And I'm going to put a bit of water in there because that will help steam it. So let me just grab that. Oh, I can hear it starting to sizzle. And this will just help, like I said, get a sort of a steam on it and help to cook those vegetables a bit faster. And then later on, I will take the lid off, whoops, and let that water all evaporate off of it. Put the lid on, and we will just let that steam for probably about 5 minutes, like once it gets really good and going. You can see how good the rice is looking, and it's a little bit more to go. There's water in there, but what I do at this time, so I'm 6 minutes I've been cooking it. I actually put a little twist tie in it. Whoops. Try that again, because our pots seal shut. If you put them in there. Okay, one hand it's a little bit hard. Okay, so I put it in there. I put the lid on it, and I'm gonna shut it off. Because it's still, the heat is still there, it's still gonna cook the rice. So I'm just gonna let that sit. We've got the vegetables cooking with a bit of water in there to steam. The potatoes, let's see, where's my little knife or my little fork? Those are done. I'm gonna dump the water out of them. So you can see it's got a good simmer going on in there with the water, and the vegetables, like at least the broccoli so far, has started to turn that nice green color. So now I am gonna take the lid off and let that water evaporate, and then we will finish stir frying these vegetables and then add our sauce and stuff in. This has been going for a while. As you see, I still have quite a bit of water on there, and I don't want the water there anymore. So I'm gonna take it to the sink and I'm gonna dump that water out. Okay, so vegetables are back on. I'm just gonna check a carrot. Carrots are the ones that tend to take the longest to cook, so that's what I'm gonna check. I do like my, well, that one I'm not eating. It flew off the floor. I do like my carrots a little on the firmer side. Don't like mushy carrots. Okay, that's good. And I am gonna pour in coconut milk that we had open. And you can cut your vegetables smaller, add some vegetable broth to this, and make it a soup. In this case, we are doing it on top of rice. So I'm putting in my tofu, because that's where all our curry is. Still chewing on a carrot. And I'm just going to mix that in and let it heat back up. I'm going to turn my element up a bit more. And I think what I'm going to do this time is probably just use the one coconut milk. And then that way, when we go to eat the leftovers, I can do more. But you can see now, it doesn't look real yellow. This is where I'm going to grab my turmeric. So I've got turmeric, got all that beautiful color. And I'm just going to sprinkle some in here. I don't measure it, I just sprinkle. And then, because there is already turmeric in your curry sauce, right? Like your yellow curry. And I'm just hoping for a bit more yellow. And I find it doesn't change the flavor drastics when you're putting in just a bit, but we need more color. Or I need more color, let's say that. You don't have to do this. If you have the paste, that is good enough. It's about the flavor that counts. So I'm just gonna stir that in. I'm gonna grab a spoon and then taste it to see if it has enough curry sauce in it. All right. Oh, it's perfect. Now, if you didn't have enough curry, I need to add some more salt. If you didn't have enough curry in there, like it wasn't strong enough for you, all you do is take some of this liquid out, add some more of the curry paste to it, and then just mush it up so there's no chunks, and add it. So I like a stronger curry flavor than my mom does, so I try to keep it down to what she likes. All right, so just gonna let that, oh, potatoes. Need to put the potatoes in there. And then let's check and see how our rice is doing. So we want all the veggies to absorb all the flavors of the curry. All right, over to the other side. So I'm gonna take that off. Oh, yes. Now see, it's more fluffy. It's not a goopy mess. And that looks perfect. So what I am gonna do, perfect. I'm just gonna slide it off because this element is still hot. So next thing is to eat. So you can see it's gotten up to a slight little rumble there. And everything should now be hot. So it's time to dish up. So first, we put some of that delicious, beautiful rice in there. Just gonna grab a spoon. I'm gonna grab some of the sauce first and just pour it on. I mean, just look it. Doesn't that look so good? And let's get some veggies. And you definitely want the sauce on this. I mean, it is so good. Making sure I get all the vegetables. And then I just have to do one more thing. Wipe the edges off of our bowl so it's presenting itself the best that it can. All right, now, okay, so this one, it's spoon worthy because you want to get all that goodness in there when you scoop in. All right, so I'm gonna try it. It dripped on my hand, what can I say? So that is really, really good. Try it out, put a comment and tell me what you think of the recipe. And be sure to subscribe if you haven't subscribed yet. Give it a like. And we'll see you hopefully every Friday with a food video. We'll see if that works. Bye for now from My Mini Homestead.